I made it no secret I think tracking your food is one of the best things you can do to lose body fat. It's been instrumental in my own transformation. But what about when you've lost the body fat? Not everyone wants to track forever. You can certainly stop, but if you don't take some important steps when making this transition, it'll be easy to gain the weight back. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how to stop tracking, start eating intuitively without the dreaded rebound. So there's two main scenarios why most people would want to stop tracking. The most common one is gonna be you're done with your diet, you're transitioning out, and you're just kind of over it. Or perhaps you're already maintaining your weight, you're in a good spot, you've been tracking for a long time, and you're just like, you know what, I've done this long enough, it's time to start eating more intuitively. I'm gonna cover both, but I'm gonna start with, let's just say you finish your fat loss phase and you're transitioning out. Before you start transitioning to eating intuitively, it's really important you take the time to reverse diet first, get your calories back up, get your hunger hormones back into a better spot, get yourself to feel better, and allow your body to recover first before just saying, I'm not gonna track anymore. And the reason for this is because after a diet, if you switch to eating intuitively, your intuition is going to be to eat everything. Because like I said, your hunger hormones are going to be off. And while most people don't usually realize this, your hunger is actually usually worse in the early stages after your diet's done than it is even during the diet. And there's a couple reasons. One, yes, the hormonal changes, but also just psychologically speaking, you don't have that motivation anymore of chasing fat loss. You kind of feel like I'm in a calorie deficit. I'll deal with it so I can get my result. But now that result is not part of the process anymore. And now you're switching to eating more food and you don't have that driver anymore. So yeah, it's a really challenging time, and it's a big reason why most people tend to gain the weight back after. So you want to start working your calories up after the diet, and then once everything's in a good spot, you're no longer food focused, you're not hungry all the time. At this point, making the transition to eating intuitively is going to be way easier because without the accountability, with hunger sky high after the diet, it's just going to be too tough. So do not skip this step. And I think it's important to say too, don't let anyone make you feel bad about either approach you might want to take. Like I see so often on social media, you shouldn't be tracking long term. You have to switch to intuitive eating, or the other way around. You have to track your intake because it's like having a bank account and not knowing how many funds are in. It's like, no, some people want to track, some people don't. If it's sustainable for you, great. Like I did the intuitive eating thing for like 2 years straight, a handful of years ago, and it was fine. My results were fine, but I ended up feeling like I actually like tracking my intake better. And many people can't understand that, but it's like, you know, I've been doing it for so long. It's easy for me to track loosely and keep things in check. It only takes me like 5 minutes a day at most to track my food because I've done it so long. So I'd rather just know how much I'm eating. I still have tons of flexibility in my diet. I know how to do this, so it works for me. But I know it's not for everyone. Now with that, I want to get into how to make this transition. But before I get into that, there's an extremely important question you have to ask yourself first. So many people get tired of tracking. They say, I'm just burnt out on tracking. I can't do it anymore. But the thing is it the actual physical tracking of your intake that you're tired of? Or are you just tired of having the accountability with your diet? You basically just kind of want to eat whatever you want, and you know you're not able to do that while hitting numbers if you're tracking. Because if it's the latter, it's not really the tracking this issue. Like you've probably been tracking a long time. You know what your diet typically looks like. You've built that knowledge base. So one of the key components to transitioning to intuitive eating is you're not really changing the way you eat. You still keep things relatively the same. It's just now you're not tracking it. So one of the key components here is you can't fall into the all or nothing mentality. You don't want to say, well, I'm not tracking now, so I just do whatever I want. There's no point. No, your eating habits do not change just because you're not tracking. So to help ease into this transition, what I recommend doing at first, you keep tracking throughout the week, and then you're gonna have one day where you have an untracked meal. Probably continue to track throughout the rest of the day, but then you have one meal and maybe it's a little bit different than usual. That's okay if you go out to eat or whatever. Again, you don't fall into, well, I'm not tracking, so let me get the highest calorie meal there is and just stuff myself endlessly. No, it's just have something reasonable, enjoy it, and then just move on. Then after you feel comfortable with that, maybe you go to an untracked day. After that, maybe you do one untracked day on the weekend, one untracked day during the week. Again, just focusing on keeping things the same, trusting yourself, you know what you're doing here, continuing to eat your protein sources, continuing to eat nutrient-dense food, also allowing yourself some treats into moderation, continuing your normal exercise routine. And then if you do that for a while, you feel comfortable, you see that you're maintaining pretty well, you're not blowing everything up because you're not being perfect. Then if you want to make that transition to just completely eat intuitively after that, good time to do that. You could wean off more. I mean, you could literally go from one untracked day to 2 untracked days to 3 untracked days, and like every week just take one more day. That's kind of a long time. And I think for most people, once you've got 2 or 3 untracked days consistently and doing well, it's probably safe at that point to just completely wean off. But you do want to make sure you continue to monitor things. Don't stop tracking and then completely stop weighing yourself and stop paying attention to body composition and everything. And again, you don't want to get too caught up in weight, and understand weight maintenance is extremely misunderstood. don't feel like you have to maintain the exact same weight forever. So while the video is talking about without gaining weight, weight maintenance is like a range. Maybe it's like a 10-pound range or so. It's a bit different for everyone. It also depends on how big you are and everything. But getting to an exact weight and then just holding that forever, for 99.9% of people, that's not gonna be realistic. Weight maintenance means over a long period of time, there's a range of weight that you stay in between. And then if you go a long time, if you go 2 years or whatever in that range and you start creeping up towards the top of it, well, then you know you're in a good spot metabolically. You haven't dieted a long time. You can come back, cut back down to that lower end of the range. You can get in and out real quick because your metabolism's in a great spot. And then you just focus on that range again. So don't put so much pressure that if you gain a couple pounds, that means you have to diet again. That's how you trash your metabolism, stay stuck. But the danger is if you completely stop paying attention, you might end up gaining more weight than you realize. And then one day you step on the scale again and go, what the heck happened? So you want to continue to monitor things. Now, with all that being said, if you're coming off of a cut and it's time to reverse diet, I'm sure you're worried about gaining too much weight by increasing calories. Well, there's some steps you can take to help make sure you're not gaining unnecessary weight. So to reverse diet without weight gain, make sure you check out this video next. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in that other video.